सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
In this edition of Global Print, dear viewer, I'm going to talk to you about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the US. Now, you know that he's traveling to the US on the 22nd of June. He begins his trip in New York, where he will attend the International Yoga Day that will be organized by the United Nations, no less, and from there he goes to Washington, D.C. This is going to be a state visit, only the third by any Indian leader, which in itself is quite remarkable. And so there's a big agenda lined up ahead of him. But before I go into the details of this visit, dear viewer, I'd like to make an appeal to you. Please do subscribe. Pay just a little bit, only rupees 149. It's very little money, but it makes a big difference to the kind of journalism that we do at The Print. And we hope that you will continue to encourage us to do this kind of journalism, which is free, fair, objective, and non-partisan. So do click on that join button, pay that very small sum of money, rupees 149 only, and become a subscriber to The Print's journalism. So back to my column, Global Print, on the Print website, in which I talk about this remarkable transformation between India and the US. Over the last several decades, we've seen how both estranged nations have become almost allies. And the reason India has not become a full ally of the US is because India's sort of traditional foreign policy perspective has been to be an independent nation backed by a unique and ancient civilization. And so India likes to walk this middle path, if you like. It may be a tortuous middle path, but it's nevertheless, it likes to sort of maneuver between these various relationships, the most obvious one being between Russia and the US right now. But having said that, India has made it very clear to the Russians that it does not approve of its invasion of Ukraine. That is going on ahead. Nevertheless, the Russians don't really, not asking India or anybody else what it wants to do in the Ukraine. And meanwhile, India becoming closer and closer to the US. And we've seen just over the last few weeks 2 important visits that have taken place from the US to Delhi. Lloyd Austin, who is the defense minister, the US minister, was in Delhi a few weeks ago. He met Rajnath Singh, and a jet engine deal that GE is planning to co-produce, co-manufacture in India will be one highlight of the visit of Prime Minister Modi. Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, also talked about the potential transfer of technology from the US to India as part of this Make in India program. That's something that the Narendra Modi's government is showcasing everywhere its ministers go, and Prime Minister Modi will talk about it, I imagine, at the US too. So Rajnath Singh telling Lloyd Austin that they must transfer technology, and word is that the US is planning to transfer a significant amount, an advanced transfer of technology is likely to take place. And for that, I'd request you to watch an interview that I did a few days ago with Ashley Tellis. He's the Tata Chair for Strategic Studies at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, which is a very well-known think tank in Washington, D.C. But more than that, Dr. Tellis is one of the best-known American faces of Indian origin, naturally, which makes him so much closer to home in many ways. But he is by far the smartest intellect on the Indo-US relationship. He knows India very well. And it is on the back of this knowledge and this information, both from the Indian side as well as from the US administration, that he's able to get this wonderful sense of the India-US relationship. So I'd encourage you to watch that interview. And in that interview, Dr. Tellis tells us that pretty advanced kind of transfer of technology is likely to take place, which is why the jet engine deal by GE is going to be like a litmus test, a test case for this transfer of technology potentially from the US to India. There will be other agreements that are going to be signed. Critical among them is the Indo-US Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, the ICET. And the second visit that I talk about in my column is the visit by Jake Sullivan, the US National Security Advisor, only 46 years old, a very smart young man. And it's interesting to note that when the 1971 war happened, Jake Sullivan wasn't even born. And the reason I bring this up, dear viewers, because when the USS Enterprise, the aircraft carrier, sailed into the Bay of Bengal, warning India not to attack Pakistan, that is a fact that is perhaps embedded in India's subconscious, because as we know that the war that started on the 3rd of December 1971 went on for about 16 days. It was Pakistan which attacked India. But over the year, over 1971, and perhaps a significant part of the couple of previous years too, Indian troops were preparing the Mukti Bahini, the Bangladesh rebel force, to fight for their own country. Pakistan broke up, we all know. But the critical factoid that I wanted to bring back is that the USS Enterprise, which sailed into the Bay of Bengal, warning India that it should not attack Pakistan. So these 52 years, how things have changed so completely. At the time, the US with Pakistan squarely, today India and the US, not quite natural allies as Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee once described the relationship in the early 2000s, but very much getting there. So Jake Sullivan and Ajit Doval, India's National Security Advisor, now forging the ICET, or the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies, in the future. And what is ICET? So it's all about the quantum computing, research in the STEM technologies. And I believe that the American Association of Universities is in collaboration with Indian universities, is going to promote the study of STEM technologies. So read my column Global Print and you will understand why this is such an important visit. But before I let you go, dear viewer, there is something else that I'd like to say, which is that 4 days before Prime Minister Modi begins his visit to the US, which is on the 22nd of June, just 4 days before, the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is going to be in China. And that is what is so fascinating about the US-China relationship. We know that the Americans, ever since Deng Xiaoping became in 1978, he opened up China to the world, and the US, in no small measure, helped the Chinese modernize, become the industrial power that they are today. And ironically, the Chinese are now challenging the Americans for the spot of world number one. But check out my column. You will also see what Jake Sullivan had to say about the Chinese and how over the last few years, while the Americans are very focused on this competition from China, Jake Sullivan also talks about the peaceful competition from China. So the Americans not giving up this dialogue with the Chinese. On the one hand, they are facing up very squarely to this competition, and which is why they want India to be very much a partner in the Indo-Pacific. And India, of course, you know, is a member of the Quad. But as all big powers do, they ensure that all their interests are taken care of, which means that on the one hand, you speak to friends like India, but you also speak to potential antagonists like China. So read my column, Global Print, and I hope you will tell me what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching.